Well, hey dudes, and welcome back to another weird and wacky episode of World Building. I am the host, Model Monstrosities. So I want to try making a snowy diorama. This is something I'm not sure if I've ever done before this one, but I recently got a 3D printer, and I wanted to try printing out something that I designed myself. Well, designed part of it myself. But before I show you what I printed, I am here gonna make some thing out of dinosaur toys, which I have done before, but you know, they're cheap and they're easy to cut up, usually, except for that horse, which was pretty much solid, I think. But I picked out some little toys and things that had some good tails, and I used the part of the horse for the bulk of the body, which is the plan for a squid. And I got out some tails. And here is that thing I was talking about. It is Mammoth Man Mark 10. That's what I called the file that I printed him out with. And yeah, I think it turned out pretty good. I designed the body on HeroForge, and I got the head and tusks from Thingiverse. That was like perfect. But also, I didn't get all the digital kit bashing perfect, so I had to repair some of it with Milliput. But he was also a little sticky yet, so I shined that light at him to help cure some of the outside stuff, or make him less sticky. But then I was doing some blending on that squid thing, which I glued the tails onto, and a beak thing that came off of a Triceratops toy. This isn't the whole squid. The cube I was planning to use for the water wasn't quite big enough, so I just used some of the Milliput stuff, and I used some clay sculpting tools and blended it together and added some texture as well. And then I did some repairing on him, and then I got out some balsa wood. This is some really soft wood that's great for making little miniature texture for wood and things, and it's actually wood, so and it's very easy to cut, as you can see. That of course depends on the thickness though. So I made some lines on it to make it look like that flat board is multiple thinner boards, like much thinner. So, and I was planning to make a little wagon with these things. The lines were a little thick that I did, so I ended up kind of making them look a little bit thinner. And then I cut them down to size and glued it together. And I also textured it with a wire brush. Now, the idea behind this diorama is that there was a guy that was walking along, and he was in the snowy area of the planet of rejection. Now, the planet of rejection, if you don't know already, is a planet that I made up that's supposed to be in our universe that has breaches or portals that go from our world to their world, and they are like magnets. They suck in metal and drop them off in rejection, which means that junk kind of just piles up in rejection. But only a few areas have those portals. Most areas, there's a possibility that that portal will open up in rejection, but they open up more commonly in certain areas. And the snowy area, it doesn't happen very often. So what this diorama is on is near the border of the colder area in rejection, or part of the colder area. I mean, of course, there's multiple snowy areas and colder areas. And he was just on his way back from traveling through there. And he happened to just be walking by, and there was a little wagon that someone had gotten stuck in the snow with all their vegetables and stuff, and then gave up because it got stuck and I couldn't get it unstuck, it would seem. And then there happened to be a huge Mammoth Man Mark 10, but he walked by and just kind of ignored the guy that was at the edge of the border, or near the edge. He's obviously not quite past it. And just kind of ignored him. Now, the guy isn't fighting him, although he does have a sword. He just happened to be carrying a sword. And it was time to mix up some resin. The first batch I put too much paint in, and it was really cloudy, so I didn't use that. But first, then I poured down a little bit less cloudy resin into the bottom, and then while that was still gooey, I poured a much more clear batch on there. I still had a little bit of blue in there, I think, but it was reasonably clear. And then I waved a flame over the top to kind of get the bubbles out. I think it softens the resin, which allows the bubbles to go up more easily and pop more easily. And then I got out some white resin after it had partly cured and poured it over the top. Or it had hardened. It was probably a bit still sticky, but it had hardened enough to pour it on top. That was weird. And then I poured it into a mold as well, because I had some extra. That's kind of what you do with extra resin. That's what I do with extra resin. I don't know if anyone else does that. But then I got him out of the mold, and I thought it looked pretty nice. Then I got out a silicone mat for painting, which is not what it's meant for, I don't think, but that's what I use it for. And then I also had some little bananas, pumpkins, and apples. They were very small. I printed out the pumpkins. The apples were little plastic beads, and the bananas were bananas I made out of clay. And the little wheel for the wagon over there, I cut it out of plastic from a DVD box. And the snow here is fine sawdust, glue, and paint. Stuck him on there, and also stuck the Mammoth Man Mark 10 on there. Now, a name for the Mammoth Man Mark 10, but what they call him in rejection, could be an abominable mammoth. And, he, on the planet of rejection, is not abominable. There aren't many. There's only a few. There's only a few in each snowy area. But the abominable mammoth was named also by a person that was from Earth that got sucked into one of the portals, and named the mammoth Abominable Mammoth. And I believe that would be a build completed.